Okay, here we are. We are live once again at Inbox Invaders. Today I have a special guest joining me. He is the Doctor of DTC Subscriptions. By the way, I love that title. Excellent stuff.
It's
He's
pretty
a
fun brand.
founder, creator, podcast host. He basically does everything. I also recently watched one of his webinar talks where he also mentioned that he is a nerd from historical to sport things to basically everything. So thanks for joining me, Matthew.
Absolutely, Vihan. I'm happy to be here.
Good stuff. So before we get started with the chat, I just quickly want to tap more into Matthew's experience, how he has gotten himself into the D2C subscription world. I know it's a very specific focus area where a lot of the marketers kind of tend to focus on everything surrounding it, but subscription is a very specific focus point. So yeah, I just want to tap more into your story and so on.
Absolutely, yeah. So I from a marketing standpoint, I think I was definitely involved on the SaaS side of things for a while. Before subscriptions, I was doing shipping technology with a company here in Utah called eHub, and then was working as a marketer and co-founder of a subscription software company called QPilot. Subscriptions, so much of like the value add is on around like retention and trying to drive more subscribers. And so we at our company at QPilot spend a lot of time trying to unpack what's working and what's not for our largest customers. And so when you're sitting on the software side and you have several hundred customers, you have tons of data. You have all these different data points. And so we would spend a lot of time trying to figure that stuff out. And then the trick is working directly with a brand to help them understand their own data and what they're doing. And I found out pretty quickly that I enjoyed troubleshooting and educating with a brand more than I enjoy necessarily whipping up a new blog post or like hosting a webinar for the brand kind of thing. So that was kind of part of that's like my own little journey of wanting to spend more time hands-on problem solving, getting into it. And the more I did that, I found like within, yeah, subscriptions is kind of pretty narrow and niche as you mentioned, but there's not necessarily a ton of content and resources related to it. And for many brands, this is like 30, 40, maybe even 60%, or if you're a subscription focused brand, like your entire revenue is based off of these recurring transactions. And yet where do you go to like find resources and expertise? And so the more I saw that, I thought, my partner and I were both, we need to do more content here. And I'm still trying to figure out more and more ways to get more content, videos and all this other stuff, just because I want to try to help as many people as possible and build my company around being able to help people that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you touch on some very good points there. I mean, we pair with a couple of, tech platforms in the subscription, arena, and you are on the money there when you talk about the data that you get exposed to. I mean, you get access to large data sets from small, medium brands to bigger brands. So it's good to hear that that kind of shaped some of your thinking and approaches to tackling D2C subscription, as opposed to you are just one-sided. You were just playing on the D2C front. You've kind of dabbled in both,
Right.
which does justify your experience exactly like you've said. Yeah, interesting stuff. So I've got a little bit of an agenda set out for the call.
Mhm.
Essentially, I want you to essentially unpack D2C subscription for the listeners out there, all the way from acquisition to retention to decreasing churn. I know that quite a meaty topic to unpack.
You're asking for everything all at once, man.
I'm asking for everything really. But just short little snippets in each of those
Yeah.
areas, because I think we also deal with a lot of D2C brands that's also on subscription services. And I think they've got, challenges across all those different stages
Right.
of the touch point.
Yeah.
So if you don't
I
mind unpacking it
no,
top to bottom,
absolutely.
that'll
I
be
I mean, I
awesome.
don't mind you asking from I say that a little tongue in cheek about asking for everything, but I think in many ways, like that is where the misalignment in the market is that a lot of people see it as, okay, I've got like this issue on acquisition, I've got this issue on retention, and I've got this issue with like, or a couple other smaller issues. And in reality, the subscriptions is all of those things together. So, and what I mean by that, where the opportunity is that, if you're, and this is maybe not necessarily a hard rule, because I don't necessarily like absolutes, because there's exceptions to every rule. Um, but say you're under 10,000 subscribers, most of your churn issues, most of them are actually related to acquisition. They're related to who you sold to, what they bought, and why they bought it. And so, and an example of this might be like a supplement company that is, you're selling protein powder. People churn because they have too much product, because you're initially selling them on a 30-day subscription when it really should be 45, or it should be 60, because of how often people are actually using the product. So when we look at retention issues, it's really honestly comes back to churn, like, or sorry, it comes back to acquisition all the time, all the time. When you get bigger than 10,000 subscriptions, you have a lot more going on, and you could potentially be losing like 1,000 or 2,000 subscribers every month. And so then there's like a lot of stuff with churn. So I would say, like, from a high level, you should be focusing on basic customer experience touch points, right? So unboxing, right, should be good. It should be educating somebody on the product, how to use it, how long they'll see benefits. Like, here's how you access the community. You're not selling, just value. And then making sure you have good upcoming order emails, you have a good cancellation survey flow in place with a couple of win back options. And then you're looking for opportunities to learn more. So post-purchase surveys, anytime you can get data around what people are liking or disliking on the retention side is really, really good. So that's just like a basic kind of approach. You don't have to go like, you don't spend all your time and resources on that. You just have to put some basic stuff in place to gather information. All of your
Yeah.
focus, the majority of your focus should be on acquisition. It should be iterating through different offers. So, like that protein powder example, you should be testing different frequency lengths to see if a cohort, or just looking at your cohort to see, hey, people that are on 60 days with this supplement actually retain 20% better than people that are on 30 days. And while the LTV for those subscribers can be potentially a lot different, you can start testing and maybe making some basic models on, like, okay, if I could get everybody on 30 days to be on 60 days, we might make less money, but the LTV is going to be better because of how the churn offsets, like it's lower churn, for example. And then testing through different offers, different price points, testing through different landing pages. Like, all of your focus should be on trying to figure out good acquisition based off feedback from the data that you're getting through the retention side. Another really good example might be, same with the protein powder example. Let's say you're getting a lot of people telling you that they're buying this as a meal supplement. They're trying to lose weight. Okay. Well, now if I know that, I can create more ads related to weight loss. I can create a landing page that's related to weight loss. I can come with a bundle or upsell option to another product that works well as a supplementary product for this supplement. And then as you start to get deeper into that, you find, oh, that actually increases conversions because people are seeing more value up front. But since I'm selling to the main pain point that people are really identifying with, that actually benefits retention as well. And so that's why I keep saying you want to come back to focus. I can list tons and tons of specific brand examples, but the
Yeah.
more you focus on how acquisition works, the stronger payoff you're going to see on retention. And so that should be the focus.
I think you're nailing a couple of key points there, and we also see this often. You now mentioning a supplement brand. We've recently serviced a supplement brand that has exactly that challenge within the model. They've even set a subscription period of 2 weeks, and then they've realized, wow, okay, that is way too short. The interesting thing that you point out is also LTV attached to subscription periods. I don't know
Mhm.
if you've seen the same thing happening with people you've consulted with. They've got this panic of, I need people to use my products, in a quite a short space of time, just so I can sell them more frequently, because
Right.
that panic of, are they using enough? Am I pushing enough? Am I getting enough revenue? That kind of almost consumes their thinking around, how should I get my people to consume? And that pretty much leads into your mention of, packaging your experience of that. Have you sensed that panic amongst
Yeah.
D2C
So
side,
yeah,
mostly on the
for
smaller size? Yeah.
no, I mean, for everybody, if you think about it, like the idea is, say you sell a bag of protein powder, it's $50, and you're selling a subscription, so you discount it to 40, and your customer acquisition cost is 80, right? So like, if you do a 1 month subscription, then in theory you might be break even on the third order or the second renewal, right?
Yeah.
So if you make that, if it's a 1 month, then that profitability comes in like 2.5 months after purchase or whatever. If you're doing it every other month, it's like 4 or 5 months down the road from you reaching profitability. So there is a huge pressure to do that. The problem is that the mistake that brands are making is they're it's often the thing you need to do. The funny thing about subscriptions is actually often counterintuitive. So what I mean is normal e-commerce best practices are removing friction points, right? You have to make the purchase as quick and seamless and easy as possible. Subscriptions buyers are typically not interested in a quick, I'm not going to commit to something that I'm going to be getting every month in 10 seconds. I'm actually going to do a little bit of research. So sometimes adding more information or more touch points can be beneficial to conversions on subscriptions. It's counterintuitive. Same thing on this
Yeah.
protein powder example. The idea is you're worried about getting more money or breaking even sooner. And so you're trying to get people to buy your product more frequently. What if you sold more of your product less frequently? What if you sold 3 bags of protein powder on a 4-month subscription? Now, instead of waiting for the third order to break even, you could actually potentially be break even immediately. And then the third or fourth order is, the third or fourth month is a lot more profitable for you. And so that's how what I've seen be successful in subscriptions is changing the buying up, right? Like if you're selling something or shipping something every 2 weeks or every month, you're paying shipping costs every 2 weeks, every month, right? Yeah, they're getting charged more frequently. So subscriptions are often bigger commitment. And while that means some conversions are harder, it also means sometimes you can lean into the fact that subscriptions are harder in the sense of that people are going to be more willing to buy more upfront. Like it's like when I buy stuff off Amazon, sometimes it's easier just to get 2 or 3 of it at once because I know I'm going to go through it instead of having to
Mm.
worry about it or think about it. Right. So that is happening in the space. So like thinking through about how to change different frequency types, like how much people are ordering. The other thing is if you are just selling one thing, are there one-offs? Are there other cross sells you can make? Maybe the protein powder doesn't get consumed very quickly, but you sell a smaller bottle of like a glutamine or another supplement that does get taken like every day kind of thing. So it's like trying to think through like different products and different part of that purchase experience to make it happen. But again, a lot of it sometimes is counterintuitive to what you think might normally work on one-time purchases.
I think you're nailing it. The other thing is, how would you, on the topic of product adoption, because we sometimes see that there's two angles of I've got too much stock. Either the subscription period is too short, or people
Mhm.
just don't use it.
Right.
How often, like, I know it's hard to determine because you can't get into everybody's homes to ask them if they've used the product, and that's the reason why they've got more stock. Have you seen a pattern in which the subscription period is too long, too lengthy for X amount of people versus X amount of people that's just not using the product often enough
Right.
to kind of finish up that
Yeah,
subscription?
absolutely. Absolutely. The protein powder is a really good example one to start with, but I want to go into something a little bit different. So, take, for example, protein powder, say, has on average 30 scoops. And if you take a scoop a day, you'll go through a bag in 1 month. Okay. But let's say I'm a bodybuilder and I want to get double the amount of protein. So I'm using 2 scoops a day. So I'm now actually using it more frequently than than say you're using it. You're using 1 scoop a day. Say my sister buys it and she does a scoop every 3 or 4 days. She just does a scoop every time she goes to the gym. Now she's going through a bag every 2 months. And so that's because there's like a varying use. Now, let's say another example might be like a sleep supplement and it's a pill and you take one every night before bed. You sell 30 pills in a bottle, so they get a bottle every month, right? Now, when those people are having issues, say they have too much product, it's very clear that they are not following the instructions, which is you need to take 1 pill a day, right? So in the protein powder example, we're just really focusing on trying to build a better experience. And so on the product page, we might start explaining, hey, if you take if your typical protein powder consumption is you take 2 scoops a day, you actually want to buy, if this is you, you're going to buy 2 bags a month, not just 1 bag, right? If this is you just take it every so often, coffee is another good example. If you're drinking 3 cups of coffee a day, you're going to want 3 bags a month. If you drink 1 cup of coffee a day, you're going to want So you can try to build a little bit of a better experience or a quiz or something to try to filter through people to give them the right option, right? That usually addresses the too much product issue. But when we're talking about, say, like somebody like they're not actually using it, some of the several things that I have implemented and that I have also seen work, it relates to like trying to understand why somebody isn't using it. And so sleep supplements are a really good example. Let's say in general, your product takes 10 days to hit the system fully and for people to really feel real benefits of like deeper sleep. Well, somebody takes it a couple times, they don't notice anything different, or their kid woke up, or their spouse was snoring, and so they're like, "Ah, this stuff doesn't work." Now they're done. That's a really common issue, is because there's some type of time frame where they have to create a new habit or see some kind of benefit. And so that's where it's like you need to rely on email marketing and you need to rely on unboxing to try to like
Yeah.
impress upon people the importance of taking this. So as soon as somebody makes that purchase, you have an email flow that starts talking about the benefits, about how long it takes to see those benefits, how other people have experienced those benefits. You're basically educating somebody on, you got to take this at least for X number of days to see results. And then when they get the order, you're then hitting them with a couple of emails to like, hey, it's day one. How you doing? Don't forget, that kind of thing. And then the unboxing, it's the same thing. If I'm unboxing a sleep thing, it's not, I hate when I am auditing a subscription brand where if it's the initial unboxing thing is like, scan this QR code to get a new product or free product. It's like, you're not educating me on why this is great and why this is beneficial for me. Like this is 100% open rate, 99.99% open rate. That should be a touch point reinforcing the value of the product, how it works, what they should be aware of, all those types of things. And when you go about that approach, that actually has a better effect on retention because somebody starts using it the way it's intended. It's also an opportunity to educate somebody if something goes wrong. Say the protein powder example. If you find you're not using this as often as starting to run into more product, here's how you manage your subscription. Here's how you change the frequency. Like you educate people on that too.
Stunning. You mentioned something super, super interesting, and that is capturing data so you can determine people's behavior or consumption
Mhm.
needs. Quickly, I want to just dive slightly into that one. At
Right.
what point do you gather that info? Because I feel like brands are capturing, and that comes down to like there's a QR code, scan it for more products. That's far too late in the journey.
Right.
When do you recommend D2C brands to capture these different data points so they can better predict what someone what the consumption level someone needs? Because I feel like D2C brands haven't nailed that yet. It's like you make your own choice, which is fine because we want to give people
Mhm.
options to choose. Is there a system that you feel like is missing where you can collect a data point and you can personalize it better for someone to go, you a coffee addict, 7 coffees a day, sir, buy it tomorrow.
Right. And I think it should happen like immediately. So as a great case in point, most people look as email opt-ins as like, give us your email and we'll give you 10% off. Like a really great tech that I'm seeing and that I think people should be paying more attention to is like John Ivanko at Form Toro, right? So he harps on this all the time around creating
Right, John?
better. Yeah. He creates a lot of content. Like his app is all about collecting data. And so I think just as a quick like unpack, like everybody thinks about quizzes as being one or the other. I'm either helping somebody find the product they want, or I'm just asking them a ton of questions. And the reality is like those two things actually can be done together. So when you're talking about a quiz doesn't have to be just like say sleep supplement. You don't just have to ask like how old are you? How many hours of sleep do you get every night? You could actually start doing some of the best app experiences I've seen is when they're onboarding you with a quiz, they're like, how much sleep do you get a night? So when you're talking about a quiz doesn't have to be just like say sleep supplement. You don't just have to ask like how old are you? How many hours of sleep do you get every night? You could actually start doing some of the best app experiences I've seen is when they're onboarding you with a quiz, they're like, how much sleep do you get a night? You know, medical science suggests for people of this age that they should be getting this amount of sleep every night. Oh, okay. So next step is like, do you have trouble falling asleep? Most people that have issues falling asleep, it's because of dot dot dot. So you can actually do a little bit of education while you're asking questions, and that actually can help establish value related to your product and the problem you're solving. The other thing is like there's other apps that I'm seeing like so FormToro is one, Alia Learn is another. They're both a pop-up that asks more information and storytelling, but it also you can use it as a quiz, right? And so Octane AI is another quiz tool. So you can do all of that before anyone's even bought anything. A brand that I'm working with right now called the Turmeric Co. out of the UK, like they actually just if you hit their website, they just start asking you about it's a one question pop up with no email capture or anything, just asking like which one of the benefits of like what problem or what benefit are you looking for from turmeric? Simple. So they know they have information related to like the types of people that are coming to their site right away that are interested in it for like health effects, sleep, quality, like all those different aspects that turmeric and curcumin can solve. So that's the first place to start. The next stage is like post purchase surveys, and then a lot of brands don't do much surveying after the fact. Post purchase surveys are typically like attribution flows. That's another great place to like what made you buy today, what has you excited, what's the problem, who are more about who you are, those types of things. So I think that there's often like I mean any marketer understands this, but sometimes I feel like as brands, SaaS or otherwise, that we get a little you're too close to it. I'm putting this ad together because it's talking to health benefits. I have health copy on the page. I have all my emails talk about health, and yet when I find out the reason why people buy, it's because of convenience. That happens all the time where there's a disconnect between the reasons you think people are buying and what's actually why people are really buying. So when you start learning that and you start aligning to what's actually happening, that's where I've seen massive growth happen. It's like, oh, we thought people wanted to buy because of this benefit. Turns out they actually really were like this benefit, and I don't have any copy that speaks to that. And then you do, and you start selling out of your product.
Totally agree. I think you touch on the area that I enjoy the most about marketing, and that is empathy mapping, marketing psychology.
Mm.
How can you talk about pain points, gains? Because if someone hurts in some area and you talk around, that area and you can show the gain or the outcome, you've got them hooked. So I do love that. And I
Well,
do
we're
love
gonna need
the,
to
the
talk more
fact that
about that.
you yeah, we need to talk more about that. Also, your concept around a quiz where instead of just asking a couple of questions, you almost back it up with little findings and data and facts.
Right.
Education while you're asking for. I've never thought of that, and I think it's brilliant. Then you capture data while you're busy educating and you're building trust with that person. Solid.
I was gonna
Last
say quick,
question.
quick, quick. Well, I'll say
Yes.
quick rec to that. If you need inspiration for that, I would do like look at app downloads, apps that
Yeah.
cost money. Like if you're like a
Onboarding
mental
experience.
wellness app or something like that, where like say they're like it's just like a sleep tracker
Yeah.
or a mental health or a productivity app or something like
Funny.
that. Download one of them and go through their onboarding
Yeah,
because
no,
apps do
they
this
nail it.
better than anybody, right? Like they ask these questions, but they're also educating you at the same time, like productivity. They say, like, hey, most people think that productivity is 100% game. Actually, the highest producers in the world are only as productive 30% of the time. Boom. How often do you feel like you're productive? And then you start getting down the problem of you downloaded the app to be more productive. I'm going to unpack the problem of productivity for you. And then I'm going to show you why our solution fixes all of those problems for you. And apps are great at that. Ecom quizzes can be more like that.
On the money. Take note of that. I also agree with that. I've recently downloaded an app for home workout. Sorry, and the onboarding is exactly that. How much time do you have? Do you
Yeah.
have equipment in your house? How big is your space? Like, yes, no, 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 no. The results, beautiful. I've been educated. I've been, listened to. It's a beautiful experience.
And they have all these data points around who you are and
And they're
what you've
using
got. So
they're
when they
using the
run
data.
ads, yeah, if they find that their highest LTV customers don't actually have equipment in their home, they're going to start launching creative and ads related around how you don't need equipment at home to make this work.
They're gonna convert
So
me
yeah,
because that's my pain point, you know? Okay, I love that. That's practical tips. Last one here, because I can see time is flying. The big topic is, again, we need another 7 hours for that. Decreasing churn. What's your take on intervention before churn happens? Because I feel like, people are so D2C brands tend to win back campaigns,
right.
quick, 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 win them back. What's your take on intervening before that happens versus, okay, they've now churned, what now? How would you unpack that for some of the people on here?
Yeah, I'd say you want to dive. You want to understand a little bit better around like your like looking at your top cancellation reasons. So and one of the things I would do is I like simplifying those. A lot of the brands that I audit, they'll have like 7 or 8 questions that they're asking, which is just maybe too much. You can narrow it down to 4 or 5. But a really classic one, like you mentioned, is too much product. Like, okay, let's get into too much product. Is it too much product because you don't believe it's effective? You didn't order at the right frequency? Like what? Which is the reason why there's too much product? Because once I start to understand that a little bit better, I'm going to build an experience to address that. That's going to be more intervention focused, right? Like if there's I didn't know how much to order or I ended up with too much just because it's just too often for how much I use it. Okay, well we need to do a better job of educating people that and making people make a choice sooner on to prevent that from happening. If churn is happening because people don't see value or it's too expensive, you don't necessarily have to change the price, but you can do a better job of using copy or email or unboxing or stories to try to demonstrate the value of what you're doing, right? Or, instead of throwing a bigger discount at the problem, you could potentially like give them another product for free, right? That's like a helpful thing, right? Like say you're selling toothpaste on a subscription. Well, here's like a set of flossers or mouthwash to enhance the subscription experience as a gift, right? So like looking at like use cases is another good way to think of that. So I think that in general, like throwing discounts or a gift or something can be effective, but I like doing that after I've done more research on what's happening, what's canceling, and only if I'm targeting a certain point of time. So if I'm trying to increase retention from month 2 to month 3, and I run a gift campaign or I run a discount campaign, I'm tracking to see if I can increase net retention from month 2 to month 3, right? Like I'm looking at a specific step in the subscription journey to see if I can positively influence that. So I think it can work, but I do most of the time when I'm working with a brand, I'm telling them to pump the brakes a little bit on that. Let's spend a little bit more time understanding why people are unhappy. And see what more we can figure out. And again, a lot of this does come back to like you asked this earlier about frequency. Sometimes the best retention play is just changing what people buy, right? Like a brand that I'm talking to out of, been working with out of Australia, they're finding that a 90-day subscription actually works better than the 30-day subscription. So they're redesigning their product page to just prioritize that because people that buy that just happen to retain better for whatever reason. So let's optimize that experience. That fixes churn in most of the time, working it on it that way.
So many good points. The one thing that I do love about your statement here is there's almost an element of you can calculate a cancellation reason, too much product. Most brands tend to stop there. I haven't seen any other brand or any brand really do another follow-up question. Like too much brand, they tend to action that immediately. Okay, you can pause or swap
Right.
or increase your, and they kind of stop there. Cool, job done. Wash my hands, off I go. I like the
Right.
idea of why do you have too much stock? Ask more questions around that. I've never seen that happen. I do love that point. I do love.
Yeah.
Anyway, I see 30 minutes in. My gosh, time flies. I want to be
It
conscious
does.
of time, especially while you're having fun. Um, Thank you once again for joining me on the session. Please do a bit of a plug. Where can people find you? I know you've got a beautiful community running. You've got a beautiful podcast.
Right.
Do a quick plug if
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
want.
You can go to thesubscriptiondoc.com. That's my website to see access my newsletter, podcast, see more about my consulting and stuff. Um, kind of deliberating on some kind of masterclass or some element in the future as well. Or can connect with me on LinkedIn, Matthew Holman, subscription doc, or on Twitter.
Stunning. That's a wrap. And we just want to thank you for everything you do for the subscription community. I mean, I see your stuff constantly in my stream. I absolutely love it. Keep it going. There's other people here also loving you. And thanks for your commitment to making subscription a better place. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Thanks,
Any
Wiehan.
questions from the community, from the listeners, before we end the stream? I see there's one compliment here from Gene. Two of my favorite guys to follow here together today. Appreciate
Yeah.
that. Any comments, questions? All good? Then I want to wrap up. Beautiful. Thanks for your time and chat to everybody soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.